He was polite about it. He paid for his drink. He gave a flight attendant a note. The note said he had a bomb. He showed her the wires inside his briefcase. He said he wanted $200,000 and 4 parachutes. 5 hours later, somewhere over the forests of Washington state, he opened the back of a moving Boeing 727 and stepped out into a thunderstorm. The plane was traveling at 180 knots. The temperature outside was 7 below zero. Nobody has identified him. Nobody has found his body. The money has never been recovered. Reading the FBI vault, the case file runs to 60 volumes. The Bureau interviewed more than 1,000 persons of interest across 4 decades. They tested at least 3 confirmed suspects against the physical evidence. None matched. In 2016, they suspended the active investigation. Citizen researchers working from declassified material have not stopped. Here is what is on the record. On the afternoon of November 24, 1971, a man in a dark business suit walked up to the Northwest Orient counter at Portland International Airport and bought a one-way ticket to Seattle. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. He paid $20 in cash. The ticket agent did not ask for identification. In 1971, you didn't have to. The aircraft was a Boeing 727-100. 3 engines mounted at the tail. A staircase at the rear of the cabin that could be lowered while the plane was airborne. A feature unique to that variant. There were 36 passengers and 6 crew. Flight 305 boarded on time. It was the day before Thanksgiving. Witnesses described Cooper as around 6 feet tall, slim, mid-40s, with a dark complexion and a low voice. He wore a black raincoat, dark slacks, loafers, a clip-on black tie with a mother-of-pearl pin. He chain-smoked Raleigh filter-tip cigarettes. He drank bourbon and soda. He left the 8 cigarette butts behind. Shortly after takeoff at 3 p.m. Pacific time, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. She put it in her purse, unread, assuming it was a phone number. Cooper leaned over. He said, "Miss, you better look at that note." The note read, "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I will use it if necessary." He opened the briefcase enough for her to see inside. 8 red cylinders, a coil of wire, a battery. She would later tell investigators it looked like dynamite. She wrote down his demands as he spoke them. $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserve, a fuel truck waiting at Seattle to refuel the plane on landing. The captain, William Scott, contacted Seattle Traffic Control. Northwest Orient executives authorized the ransom within 90 minutes. The FBI, working from the airport tower at SeaTac, assembled 10,000 $20 bills. Every serial number was photographed and recorded onto microfilm. The bills were placed in a knapsack. The parachutes were collected from a local skydiving school. Flight 305 landed at SeaTac at 5:39 p.m. Cooper released the 36 passengers and 2 of the cabin crew in exchange for the money and parachutes. He kept the captain, the co-pilot, the flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant, a young woman named Tena Bar, on board. He ordered the plane refueled and gave the cockpit a flight plan. South, toward Mexico, low altitude, aft stairs down. Flight 305 took off from SeaTac at 7:40 p.m. into a thunderstorm. Cooper ordered Mucklow to the cockpit and closed the curtain. At approximately 8:13 p.m. somewhere between Seattle and the Oregon border, the cabin's pressure warning light activated on the cockpit panel. Mucklow looked back through the curtain. The aft staircase was extended into the slipstream. Cooper was gone. The plane was traveling at 180 knots. The air temperature at 10,000 feet was -7 degrees Celsius. The wind chill at that airspeed was lethal within minutes. Below the flight path was 100 kilometers of dense temperate rainforest, Lewis County, southwest Washington, cut by the Columbia and the Lewis rivers. It was raining heavily. It was already full dark. Flight 305 landed in Reno, Nevada at 11:02 p.m. with the aft stairs still partially deployed, scraping the runway. The FBI, the U.S. Air Force, and local law enforcement searched a 28 square kilometer drop zone for 18 months. They used helicopters, ground teams, divers, and infrared scans. They found nothing. No body, no parachute, no knapsack, no ransom money, no physical trace of any kind. Cooper left 2 items on the plane. The first was his clip-on tie with the mother-of-pearl pin. The second was 8 unfiltered Raleigh cigarette butts. In 2011, a researcher named Tom Kay analyzed the tie under an electron microscope. He found microscopic particles of pure titanium, cerium, and aluminum oxide. In 1971, the only industries using that combination were aerospace manufacturing and specific chemical plants. There were fewer than a dozen sites in the entire country where such particles could have collected on a man's clothing. The parachutes complicate the survival theory. Cooper demanded 4. He took 2. The 2 he left behind, the reserves, the FBI later determined had been sewn shut for training purposes. They could not have opened. Cooper either knew that and intended to take only working chutes, or he gambled and got lucky. The FBI investigators considered the choice telling. He knew enough to ask for 4. He did not know enough to test them. Pulling the 1980 evidence inventory, in February of that year, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was raking the sandy bank of the Columbia River at a place called Tena Bar. He uncovered 3 rotting bundles of $20 bills. The serial numbers matched the Cooper ransom. The bundles totaled $5,800. Geologists who examined the find could not agree on how the money got there. It was 9 years after the jump. It was 40 kilometers from the drop zone. Theory A. Cooper died in the jump. The jump conditions were marginal for any parachutist and lethal for an inexperienced one. The terrain is steep, dense, and difficult to search even today. His body and the bulk of the ransom may simply have not been found. The case agent who investigated the case for 30 years, Ralph Himmelsbach, believed this until his death. He considered the survival theory romantic. The terrain disagrees with it. Theory B. Cooper survived. He was a careful man. He chose a 727 specifically because it was the only commercial aircraft that could deploy stairs in flight. He knew about the cabin pressure light. He knew the route. Some investigators believe he had aerospace or military background. The K-particle analysis points the same direction. If Cooper survived, he kept the rest of the money. He did not spend it conspicuously. He may simply have gone home. Theory C concerns specific suspects. The FBI named over 1,000. 3 were considered serious. A paratrooper turned hijacker named Richard McCoy, who hijacked another aircraft 5 months later using nearly identical methods. A Boeing employee named Kenneth Christensen, a former paratrooper with mid-40s physical resemblance, and a Vietnam veteran named Robert Rackstraw, who reportedly told friends he was Cooper before recanting. All 3 are dead. None matched the physical evidence cleanly enough for the FBI to close the file as solved. In July 2016, the FBI suspended the active investigation. The press release stated the case had received more than 1,000 tips per year for 45 years. The Bureau's resources, it said, were needed for active threats. The file was not closed as solved, it was closed as inactive. What remains in the record? A man mid-40s, 6 feet tall, well-mannered, who knew how to disappear from a moving aircraft. A clip-on tie with aerospace trace particles. $5,800 in $20 bills, decayed on a Washington riverbank 9 years after they were paid out. A 727 that scraped Reno's runway with its tail. 60 volumes of FBI file. No body, no name, no conclusion. That is the D.B. Cooper case. The file is suspended. The money is mostly missing. The man, by every reasonable measure, knew what he was doing. Survived, died, walked away.